One thing my wife always says is that she just appreciates that you and I do it together. That at least we have each other. We're going to make sure that, we're taking care of each other. We're not just out here doing some crazy solo adventure.
It's true.
It's certainly not possible without them. And as our kids get older, maybe it'll be easier to do more swimrun. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like, is it getting harder or easier to do things? I thought I don't
know, man.
But also the kids, they're still in that age to where we are some of the top 5 coolest people in their life as their dads,
to enjoy it while
and it's like, oh my gosh, I see this is going to go away. Kind of, it's right around the corner. I feel like I'm sensing it with a 9-year-old, but they still were pretty cool to them, and that just makes you feel really good as a dad.
Yeah, my daughter introduces me as a YouTuber to her friends,
which is ridiculous. Welcome to the Low Tide Boyz, a Swimrun podcast. I'm Chip.
I'm Chris, and this is episode 260 of the show. It's also our last show for 2024.
It's the last one.
And as we're wont to do per tradition, this is going to be our Fireside chat, this is the 4th time we've done one of these. This one, I think, comes out the day after Christmas. So no offense if you save it for New Year.
Yeah.
But we thought that this year we would talk about our season, and it was an interesting swimrun year. First time we haven't done Atala in two years. I think a very mixed year in many ways. And Chipper, I guess before we get into maybe go race by race is probably a good way to chronicle our year. How's the body? How's the mind?
Yes.
Off season.
How did we start the Fireside chat? We're like, oh, let's just give a recap of the year kind of thing is the spirit of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we thought about things.
Yeah. How we felt the year went. Podcast, racing, all sorts of stuff. This is what the Fireside chat's about.
Right.
How's the body? How's the mind? Body is, compared to where it was in late summer, very good. The knee is, I'm feeling,
healed.
dare I say, I'm back at it, is what I've been telling people. I'm back at it. I did the Big Trees Loop today. No scares, no anything like that. Feeling good on the knee.
It's probably slippery up there too.
Yeah, a lot of newts, a lot of tree.
Oh yeah,
falled trees. Couple big. I almost sent you a picture actually because I was like, oh damn this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and inside baseball here for the trails that only Chris and I run.
This is insider. This is actually just the way we talk to each other.
But yeah, I think overall, from taking a zoom out this year, working with Coach Liz, strength. I was really committed to strength and mobility. I kind of lumped those two things together, and I feel like if I had to give myself a grade, I would say a B.
That's great
for that. 2 to 3 days a week for pretty much most of the weeks. Not saying I was perfect, but I feel pretty good about that. And I definitely noticed that sort of extra strength element and the mobility, I was feeling a little bit better. And then the races was feeling good. And I kind of feel like because I had that, my rehab was a little bit better. So body, yeah, feeling good. Looking forward to 2025. Mind also good. I know, the season didn't quite end how I think we wanted it to end, for
Fair
sure,
statement.
or at least for me personally. But I will say, and we talked about this before, I still felt like we had a good season. So I didn't feel like I tremendously missed out on a bunch. We got to do Whistler. We still raced Casco Bay. We did Folsom, Bellingham. We had a lot of fun still. So my mind, I'm feeling like good stuff.
Well, here's some fun stats. So we did 5 swim runs this year.
Okay.
Well, you did 4, but I'm counting the 5th one because you were there.
I was there in spirit. I mean, not in spirit physically.
But last year we did 6. Last year we did 6. I'm sorry. Last year we did 5. The year before that we did 6. So certainly a lot of swim running in the last 3 years, which has been great. But I feel like this year, at least for me, I needed a kind of a reset, after the 2 cycles of the World Championship. I felt like holding that fitness and sort of prospecting the level of difficulty that we had signed up for those 2 years.
Yeah.
It kind of took a toll. So this year was good in terms of...
This is your body. This is the how's the mind, how's the body.
I think it's more the mind. I think the body was actually okay. I think it was mostly the mind needed some mixed variety, which is why I did a bunch of 50Ks this year and stuff like that, kind of before swimrun season started. But our season kicked off, and body's good. Took an off season. I'm still in off season. It's been great. Got to start getting back after it though.
It's 2025.
That's what that's for. But yeah, our season started pretty late this year. We didn't do sort of like a spring, race in April.
Swimrun Lake James
we
would
didn't
have
do Lake James.
would have been that one.
But so our first race was in early June at Bellingham Swimrun, which is Brett Mulsbury's race, which Quest Racing. Quest Racing.com. I think,
yeah.
And that was super fun. It was a local race. Yeah, I really liked that one.
That was good. And that was a West Coast race for us. So we just jammed up. We got to see Annie and Brent there in person, which is always great. And the race was a lot of fun. And it got me into thinking about orcas, I think, because the race it's basically like a, training ground for orcas.
It was like a mini orcas. I mean,
mini orcas,
certainly orcas vibes. Like we kept saying that during the race, like the orca vibes were super high.
Yeah, so that got some wheels turning, and we can talk about that or not later in this episode. But yeah, like that was a really fun race, and I think it was good that we kind of had Rustbuster Swimrun out of the way. I think that's a good. Let's get a race out of the way before a race. I think is a good strategy for us.
Yeah, I mean, and that ties into our A race was really Whistler.
Yeah.
And I will say, I thought that I transition. If I scored myself, I think overall I had a better race at Bellingham than I did at Whistler. Just felt like at Whistler my transitions were just super.
You have been dogging on yourself for that. Whistler was, something that we had been looking to for a long time. And we, for the first time, really made it a Low Tide Boyz family event. We rented this huge cabin through Patreon parties there, had we went.
We gave it the full
10
treatment.
out of 10.
Yeah, we gave it the full treatment. Yeah, and it was an awesome race.
Yeah.
Had a great time. Got a race with a bunch of our friends for a lot of it, which I think just made it super fun. Usually, we're like out on an island. Just like no man's land.
We are
it's like, here we are again.
Somewhere. That race was a blast, though, and it had a little bit of everything. It was the great community was there as to be expected, but yeah, it was a good time, and I felt like we gave it I speaking for you, I think the last run. I know I usually take a page from here. The last run, I think we both. If we had to do it again, we would have done something differently. I think we would have had a little bit better time on the last run, but. Beyond that, it was still a highly successful race. And, hey, we've done hundreds of transitions and, we fumble one
like
or
a handful of them. Yeah, a handful of them was just like, oh, give me a break. I will say, though, talk about it happens. It's Swimrun. Sometimes you're not going to be super crisp, but I feel like for the rest of the year, it got very crispy. It was tight.
It's tight.
It was certainly tight. Yeah, and that race was super fun.
Vig. We raced in the Vigs. Every race this year. And it gave me a lot of confidence in my ability to weather cold water.
Yeah.
I will say at Whistler, because there was a couple brisks.
There were a couple, surprisingly, it was unexpectedly extra brisk, I think it's safe to say.
Whatever it was, because they kind of switched them. When we jumped in, I'm like, I don't think Chris is going to have a problem with me going like very up tempo effort just to get through this thing because it is cold.
I think there was going to be two outcomes when you jumped in. Either you're going to turn around and be like, "This is fucking cold," or you're just going to go. I was like, "Oh yeah, just go." That's probably better.
Baby.
That's a better response.
Yeah.
So that race was super fun. It was great to do a first year race and have it come off as it did. It really felt like you got to experience all of Whistler, which was amazing. Yeah. Then after that was Casco.
Nope, we had the Folsom swim run.
That's right.
Right in between there.
That's right. So you've done every single year.
Yeah.
You've won every single year.
Yeah. Every single time that you've come, you've also won.
Yeah. which was cool because I think that race, I love that race. I think it's for organization that only puts on one swim run a year.
Yeah.
They do a great job.
Absolutely.
It's really approachable. And what I love about it, it's almost, you can see the growth of the sport of swim run in the Sacramento, maybe even Northern California area.
Yeah, we'll say that.
Every year there's more people. Every year there's more people in ARC stuff.
That's literally how we were measuring it. Because the first year we came, it was like, oh man, these people should listen to more Low Tide Boyz. We came this year, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of ARC here. There's keels, there's carbon fiber paddles. Like people knew what was going on. Besides the one guy we talked to in the parking lot before. Do you remember that? He's like, hey, guys, should I take my shoes off and put them in? We're like, nah, you should just run with them on. It'll be fine. He goes, are you sure? I'm like, you can do whatever you want,
give it a shot.
You know, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But that race was a blast. We did the double dip.
The chipper double.
The chipper double. We did the short course, and then we finished, and then we waited 5 minutes or 6 minutes, and then did the long course there. And yeah, it was a good race. I had my one foggy goggle sort of veer
detour.
off, which was we're allowed a couple mulligans every year.
Chipper flogged himself with the tether after the race.
And that was good. We drove up in the morning, we did the race, drove back home. But yeah, that was a good time as usual.
Yeah, that was super fun. And yeah, and like I feel like this year certainly felt this way after Bellingham, just how important it is to support local races. And I'm just committing myself to be like, if I'm at all able to do it, it's like, you got to support the local races.
Yeah. And then after Folsom Swimrun, which we saw a team, sight the beam, getting ready for their Otala build. We saw Kara and a few other Team Envol people doing like the doubles as well to get ready for Otala. So that was cool to see them as they were getting prepared for it as well. Then Casco, which is always, it's like can't quit you, Casco. It's just too much fun.
It's a special weekend for us.
Yeah.
That's probably the only place on the planet that for about a 32-hour period over a weekend, people like spot us and recognize us.
Yeah.
It's like our celebrity status for just a very small window, slice of time.
50 people.
But we really appreciate it. and it's great to see so many people out there. And yeah, this year Casco, unfortunately, was an awesome race, but Chipper got hurt. As if you've been following the show all year, you've heard Chipper's knee updates, and you've also heard at the beginning of this show that he's great. So that's good to know that he's back to full health. But that was challenging just because, it happened not even halfway through the race.
Yeah, maybe a third of the way. But I don't look back at that race and I'm like, oh man, like bummed out. Like obviously I'm not happy that I fucked my knee up, but like overall, I still had a good weekend. I still had fun. The beginning part of the race that we did had fun. I felt like we were executing our plan really well.
Transitions were solid.
Transitions were great. And then, we still got it done. And yeah, I wish I would have had crutches there after, because that would have been nice. That's the one.
That would have been nice. Yeah, post race, the flight back, that was not the most fun in the world, but an awesome race. Glad it happened. Not a foggy, low cloud anywhere to be seen.
Yeah.
And then after that, a bunch of people left to go do Worlds, which we didn't. And the FOMO was real, but it was also nice to, I think I really like the fact that we're like, hey, we're not just showing up to this thing just for the participation. Like if we're going, we want to give it an honest, we're
going to give it the old college try, and we're not going to show up to blow up. We're going to show up and try to do the best that we can
to glow up
glow up. And so you're right. Like what you talked about at the front of the show, because of our commitment to training to that level, it takes a lot, and not just training and more hours. Yes. But more anxiety around it. Both of our jobs have been more stressful and busy this year. So I agree with you. At the end of last year, listen to this one from last year. I think we even committed then, and we're not doing Worlds next year. And it was kind of nice to just, kind
of put it down.
Yeah, just be like, oh, okay, cool. We get to have the summer a little bit. So
certainly, FOMO, and I think we're talking about how it affects us, but also our families, and we're trying to be, as much as we love swimrun, we're probably trying to be better dads than anything else and better husbands, and that just requires, making choices. And certainly we lived in East Coast or something. Maybe we're making different choices because it's easier to get over there.
Yeah.
But just being in California made it tough. But it was awesome to see so many American teams at Worlds, and overall it was a pretty fun year at the World Champs. It was super treacherous and rainy and all sorts of weather. But so with Chipper being hurt and the Hurricane Helene that hit North Carolina area, Swimrun NC, which was going to be our next race, was postponed to April. Beginning of April, 2025. So if you haven't signed up for that, please do. It's the last year they're doing the race
for reals.
So it'd be great if we get that thing sold out and really just celebrate what's really is like a very important race in kind of the history of swim run in the US. It's also a really cool race. So, there's multiple reasons why you should sign up if you're at all curious about doing the last ever Swimrun NC. And then we had entries for Austin. And I think this is where, for the first time, I raced with another partner, not including a virtual swimrun I did with a mutual friend, Sandrine.
What I Cape Cod. You were going to do Cape Cod again.
I think I blocked that out of my mind.
I think I blocked it out.
No, it's okay. So supposed to do Cape Cod solo for the second year, and for the second year, some freak weather pattern postponed it. Incidentally, for 2025, what they're doing, so it's on Saturday, but then they're holding the Sunday as a potential makeup day. So they're getting permits for both days, which is
it's kind of actually not a bad move. The Swimrun Cape Town, South Africa also does that as well. So not a horrible idea if weather is a fickle beast in your area.
Yeah, I mean, one year's a hurricane, one year's some just crazy storm. It was just insane. You don't want to use the C word too much, but
yeah, Austin.
Yeah. So anyway, fast forward to Austin. So, we had race entries, and I ended up racing. Well, I was going to race solo. Well, I was maybe going to race with our good friend Phil from San Diego, and I was maybe going to race solo. And then at the ShakeOut, the clinic before the race, I ran into Viv Emraz, who's, stud swim runner herself, and been a reader for the show, done races with her. She's done worlds. And it seemed like a good idea at the time to just be like, hey, you want to do this thing together?
It worked out. It was very organic feeling. I was definitely more mobile. And I think I was to a place fit knee health wise that I probably could have done it. But it was also like, hey, don't do anything stupid. And we had talked about it before, even when I was more, incapacitated from my knee. It's like, I'm going to come anyway because it's always such a great time. Yep. And I think it felt like
you were
right
on the
thing.
fence for that at first.
Yeah, I was like, come, dude. I don't know, but then I'm glad I did it. But yeah, the race was really, it was cool that you did that and partnered up. You got a race in the mixed division. It seemed like you learned a lot from it, as you've been talking about a lot. And it was a cool experience. And I got to do something cool too. I got to be on the media thing. And I went crazy on Instagram Live, and not inadvertently, but
just sort of
100, an hour and a half of between 12 live stream Instagram videos.
Well, you want to hear something funny about that? So my wife was watching that, and afterwards she commented to me, "It's like, oh, Chipper spent a lot of time covering you and Viv," and I was just like, "Hell yeah, he is! He's not trying to be fair and balanced, he's not a journalist. He's just shooting what he wants." But anyway, she thought that was super funny.
But Austin was great. It was, I think, from the more meta swimrun angle, having the most attendees there, really a great turnout. They had the three, the sprint, the experience sprint, and then the World Series distance. Huge turnout for those. The ShakeOut clinic thing, very popular again. People seem to generally have a really great time out there.
Literally saved some people's feet at the ShakeOut. Advising. Remember that one guy?
Yeah,
I hope you're listening, and I'm glad you listened, because in our experience,
going to go with the Vivo.
If you don't listen to us, we're always right. If you do listen to us, there's like a 60%
you're
chance.
On your own.
But yeah, he was going to race for the first time in Vivo barefoots and Hydras, and I was like, "Have you been doing any?" He's like, "Oh, not really." It's like, "Did you bring any other shoes?" Well, maybe wear those.
Yeah.
And actually, during the race, he thanked me, because I was like, checked his footwear. He was like, "Thank you, dude."
When he passed me when I was filming him once, he's like, "Hey, nice, thanks for the shoe." Yeah, no problem, dude.
That was great.
But yeah, that race is always such a warm way to end the season, and I mean that figuratively and literally. It was quite warm, actually.
Certainly on the warm side.
And yeah, we got to hang out with Andy and Mara and get a house, and yeah, it was just a great time with the community as well, as it always is.
So that was our race season. Super stoked. We'll talk about what we're thinking for 2026.
25.
I'm already in the
You're
future,
already in
dude.
the future.
What we're thinking for 2025 in a bit. But first, before that, why don't we talk about how the show went? Another year of podcasting.
Another year of podcast. So we went from, episode 218 to 260. Is that math? I think that works. If not, Anyway, we did 52 episodes roughly once a week. I think one thing that really stood out is we started introducing the video piece, and we both, if I can speak for you, Chris, it was really, it like gave us new, it felt like it gave us new energy and life. You like got your studio fixed up in your garage, and I'm like, oh,
which
man,
I've been talking about for a while.
Yeah, you've been talking about it. I was like, oh man, I got to get my thing on going too. So it just, I don't want to say revitalized, but it felt like it put some new energy into it.
I actually think that's a good word. I think it really helped because, I mean, we're pretty transparent on this show that this is, it's a labor of love. Yeah. It's a labor of love. It's our hobby for sure. And we're happy to do it, but it's not like it's not easy. Like it takes time and, and dedication and everything else. And yeah, I think like thinking of doing another year the way we've been doing it, I think would have just drained the batteries more, but injecting the video content and just kind of stepping that up, I think it just gave us like kind of new thing to kind of do or open or unlock it away. Yeah.
And that's also a great time to plug our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to that, please do, because, we're trying to be, I guess we think about it like now as like a video show instead of like a podcast. It's still wherever you listen to podcasts, obviously, but yeah, head on over to YouTube, subscribe there. But yeah, I think, and there was a couple really great episodes that we like. I'm very proud of every episode, but there was a couple I'm like, oh man, that was such a cool one. And we talked to a lot of folks this year and highlighted a lot of cool races. I think was something we try to do a little bit more. We had, more international flair from the race directors and everything there.
Yeah, so obviously it's a whole bunch of shows. Do you have like a top 3 that sort of stand out for you?
I mean, it's a little bit of recency bias, but our episode with Stefan about the Oland sort of exclusive piece.
That very recency bias. It's good though.
Like 3 episodes ago.
Again, yeah, it's not exclusive.
I will say that is something that I felt like we have been trying to make happen for a long time. We're like, hey,
like we're here if you
like
want to try to amplify your messaging.
Yeah, like we're just trying to shout it from the rooftops. And then so I felt like I was really pumped about that one. And that was so that's some recency bias there. I honestly would probably have to look through.
Yeah, well, here, I'll give you a break to think about one, and I'll tell you one of mine. Maybe we'll just go back and forth that way. So also recency bias, but I think our interview with Dave Dammer and all the work that he did to produce what we're now calling Dave's List, which lives on the Low Tide Boyz website, might live somewhere else as well, just because we want this information to be available. But it's essentially, as far as we know, the most comprehensive guide to swim runs in the world. It's just
all the swim runs,
and it's just kind of cool to see it in one place. And huge shout out to Dave, our overqualified special intern in charge of special projects. I thought that was really cool, and it was kind of just great to to see that list and all the information you could get from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked our Whistler, or I'm gonna pick two here, the double Whistler. So when we talked to Dale, the local race director there in Whistler, and to hear about how he put the course together. And then when we talked to Marcus
and Lars
Barton after him and Lars kind of gave us he contributed as well, but talking to Marcus and hearing how they sort of tweaked the course and did things like that really was cool. And then especially being on the course, and I was like, I mean, I even remember telling you, I'm like, fucking Marcus put this in. I guarantee Marcus did this. But yeah, that was a really cool one. And that, we did more than last year. I feel like, if I'm, I don't have the stats on me, but, my brain check is saying, we did more like course preview, race things from race directors to kind of really get the word out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think another interview that I really liked was when we had Fanny back on, which was kind of celebrating her Austin win.
Yeah.
But also just kind of hearing what she's up to, and she's such like a, in the sport of swim run, if it had a Hall of Fame, she's an inductee.
She's definitely in it.
And it was just kind of cool to catch up with her, because I think chatting with her just can't help but transport me back to when we first met her in Catalina in 2020, and just like how she's grown, having a child and the sport and everything else. It was just kind of cool to kind of go full circle on that one.
Yeah. definitely. Trying to think of more. Have to look it up.
Well, I'll give you the third one for both of us. Man, our race reports. I have to say, our race reports. I was listening to Catalina while I was on the bike, just to kind of like, this is going to be fun, right? Just be like, Catalina's probably going to be our first, foreshadowing our first race next year, and swimmer race, and yeah, I was like, what was that like? And just I only got through half of it, but I was like, man, this is gonna be super fun, man. It's gonna be super fun. And honestly, I think like,
were we like naive, but
it didn't come off. It didn't come off as like these two freaking clowns.
Okay.
Like I thought it was gonna be way more like, we were such, just
we're self-conscious about the early, the first.
It's like, we're just like a couple of nerds or something. But no, it actually came off pretty good, I thought.
We'll definitely listen to that one again, which is kind of so cool, like full circle, that how the Low Tide Boyz even started in this very studio that we're in right now, was the idea because we were preparing for Catalina, in 2020, and we're like, let's do the podcast thing, and now here we are. No chance we would have written down, we'll be doing this 2025 and we'll have 260 episodes and Patreon and all this
Seriously.
crazy stuff. But it has been a journey. And I think one thing, I feel like I try to say this a lot because it is true. When we hear from you all and get emails, DMs, texts, whatever, like commenting, thanking us on the course, it's just so... It's just energizing, and I don't know if that's the best word that I can think about it. Like that really, to me, like pushes us forward. And is like, hey, I'll get 10 more episodes. I'll get another couple of weeks out of this thing. Not like we're like crashing and burning or anything, but it just is really energizing because the constant support, I guess.
Especially when we started it was really, we were really intentional about thinking of it in terms of like, hey, this is for us. If people listen to it, we hope people like it. We're going to try to do a good job. But because we weren't trying to do it to become YouTube micro influencers or anything like that, it just sort of worked out that, we just stayed super grounded with the whole thing. So anytime we got feedback, at first we were like, oh my God, I'm so glad that it didn't run you astray. To the point now where it's really just fuels. It rejuvenates us to keep going, which is cool. But certainly those race reports, to me, it's like a Dear Diary entry. It's like a captain's log of what happened that day, and it's actually helpful to see the transition of how we've.
It's a pretty cool thing. I'm glad that we have been doing them and sort of cataloging it, because it is really, you sort of forget, and we record it like pretty fresh within a day or two of the race. So it's pretty raw, like fresh kind of, race report essentially. But it is helpful to kind of retain and remember how it was. And it's just always great. I do go back and listen to those sometimes as well to kind of hear how things went. And they're always great. And, people seem to like those just from like the download numbers. Streams.
People seem to like them, and certainly when there's adversity, those tend to get extra downloads. So I don't know what's up with that. It's like, Chipper got fucked up. Let's
tune into this one.
But I think that's a good transition into what we're thinking for next year, 2025. So like this year, I think our ability to train together is going to be limited just by your work schedule and having to commute to work. Which I think that, as an aside, that was like the biggest change from years past for us is much less time training together.
We did by far. The Strava, year in review came up and it said, you were still my top training partner, but it was like 33 hours or something. I'm like, oh my God, that's all? I'm like, we would do 33 hours like in a month, no problem.
Seriously.
And then the whole year, it's been a significant adjustment in our sort of training. My job requires me to go in to San Francisco 4 days a week. So that's
bullshit.
That's quite a lot of commuting, 2.5 hours a day for that. So I've just had to adjust and roll with the punches. I also, not that I need to give myself any pats on the back, but I kind of figured out a schedule.
I got you.
That's thanks. Figured out a schedule that works for me from like, hey, I need to get my runs on these days. I have a long commute. Like I got to make it work. How am I going to do it? And I was able to figure it out and feel like I got to accomplish and got to sort of the fitness level that I wanted. And, you know, big shout out to Coach Liz, obviously helping facilitate that. I'm like, hey, sorry, I only literally have like 90 minutes until I need to go kind of and trying to maximize it. But yeah, I mean, that seems like how it will continue next year as well.
Which I think that helps explain kind of how we're thinking about next year, which certainly there's Swimrun NC, which is happening now at the beginning of April. Then there's Swimrun Catalina, which is going to be pretty awesome.
Yep.
And then Chipper's going to be on vacation at a wedding in Europe. So I'm going to do Whistler, probably in the mixed category again. TBD on partners.
Who?
But it's looking likely
You
to
heard
be...
it, ladies.
No, there's already one who's been identified. Mario Friuli, America's running coach. Christine Gould, who's a longtime friend of mine.
Man.
Stud swimmer. Stud swimmer.
I see you're trying to get out of the pulling again.
Yes, indeed I am. So that'd be super fun. It'd be her first swim run. So that'll be, but her coach, Matt Hurley, who you had on the show, he'll know how to train her up for it.
Yes,
so that's going to be...
That's true.
I'm sure he'll be pretty stoked for that. And then we're not sure what we're doing after that.
We've gotten, I think.
Yeah, we're not sure. We're thinking Catalina. We're thinking Casco Bay, just because that weekend's kind of always on our calendar.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I don't want to.
See.
Yeah, we'll see. It'd be
see how it
really
goes.
great to be in Finland that weekend, but I don't know how realistic that is.
Wow. That would be cool. And also,
Flights would be cheaper, incidentally.
Okay. I'm taking so, you know, we had to love build the past couple of years. And I think one thing that we focused on was like hit the hills, hit the trails. That's something that we're taking forward to next. You've kind of been doing this the whole time, but I'm sort of getting on board with that. And what that looks like is like we have the 50K that you actually did this year, that we're doing that because, I mean, NC, Catalina, got to be trained up for those hills. Orcas, you know, is out there as well. Like we have some revenge tour business.
Yeah.
on
Next
Orcas.
year could be our revenge tour where we show up to Catalina. I mean, I think, I'm going to be as trained up for Catalina as it's certainly an A race, but it also kind of feels like a revenge race. Not in the sense of like, you know, we're not negative energy, but just like, hey, 4 years out, we're so much better swim runners.
My God.
I'm just curious because I think the first year we did it was like 7 hours and something.
I mean, we got our money's worth on that first year.
Yeah. But I would like next year to just be like, all right, let's just see where we're at. Apples to
I think we'll
apples.
put it this way. You tell me if you disagree. Like we did Catalina in 2020. The course had its way with us a little bit.
Yeah, it was a hard course.
We're looking to fucking, you know, throw down on it this time. We're looking to throw down on it.
Yeah, I think we'd like to have a good performance, and certainly we're going to train specifically for that. So we're going to do a ton of hills. We're going to train for it like an Engadin type build just to be really prepped up. And if that maybe carries over into maybe doing Orcas to complete the revenge tour in September, that'd be fun too, because those two races are sort of conducive to having your climbing legs. So
yeah,
it'd be fun.
Absolutely. And then, you know, as much local stuff as we can make happen. You know, Bellingham was a quick little jaunt.
Yep.
Same with Swimrun Folsom. That one's kind of always on the books there. But there's races coming out there.
Yeah.
We're staying tuned into all those and adding them to Dave's list as well.
Hell yeah. And then in terms of the future of the show, for next year, we have a bunch of cool content. We're going to be really digging in on Catalina. So if you know anyone who's racing, we're going to have an updated course preview. We're going to have talks with the race directors. We're going to make sure that we shine the light on what is just an amazing place to swim run in America. And then, keep trying to tell compelling stories. Keep trying to keep the stoke alive.
We've been getting good feedback. I see no reason not to continue the Coach's Corner with Coach Liz. That's always good to hear, you know, different coaching perspectives. And we sort of do one of those episodes after we get like, 5 people send us questions. We're like, we got enough to like do a show here.
Right.
Like, let's go and kind of keep it thematic. Like, we had her on talk about what does your off season look like? And then, what is maybe your, have her on probably, again,
Yeah,
talking
before,
about,
maybe at least
training
twice
up
a
for
year or
a
something.
race or something like that. So
yeah, and surprisingly, we're not even scratched the surface on all the different stories and personalities we could talk to in the sport, and just goes to show, even a super niche sport, there's just a lot of really interesting people in it, and a lot of cool tech. We have like a major product announcement coming soon.
Oh,
so there's an exclusive there.
What a tease!
Yeah, was it too much?
No.
Think people can handle it?
I guess. But we're really, when we'll talk in some,
super cryptic
super
fashion.
cryptic here. This idea for this product, we have talked about, Chris and I have like joked about several times. We're like, wouldn't it be hilarious if blah, blah, blah? Well, it's coming true, and we're stoked on it, as we tend to be. And it should be coming out in just like a couple weeks.
Yeah,
we'll tell you more then.
Yeah,
but we're
stay
really
tuned
excited
for an episode about this in the coming weeks. But that looks interesting. But yeah, I think with that, for Chipper, myself, want to thank everyone for listening, for engaging with us, DMs, checking out the videos on YouTube, and just for helping us keep the flame alive for swimrun in the U.S. and the world.
Absolutely, globally. So that. Special shout out to Andy Blow and the team over at Precision Fuel and Hydration. They're just like some of the coolest cats out there, and they have like incredibly leveled up our nutrition and fueling game. They've been supporters from us for a long time, and that looks to continue next year as well. Really excited about that. Frank Paddle, we've been working with, makes the best carbon fiber paddles out there for 3 or 4 years now. Insane to be so fortunate to have so much carbon fiber and not own a bike. So that's been really awesome. We're really stoked to have worked with Form this year as well. And, they sponsored, I think in May when the Form 2 goggle came out. We've been really loving those and trying to keep activations going with them as well. And then obviously to Helen and Daniel and Christopher over at ARC, as kind as you can be, always so cool, and making some really awesome stuff.
Yeah, and then finally, I guess it's the crew at Attila USA, Lars, and everyone else. I mean, super supportive of us. They understand, they get us, they understand what we're trying to do, and it's so great to see them continue to grow and expand the US scene.
Yeah, absolutely, and pumping out new races, and we obviously are stoked to the nines for Catalina. And then finally our Patreon, our Patreon supporters, obviously, throwing us a couple bucks every month. It's times is tough, inflation, interest rates, and you're giving us whatever
are more expensive.
Yeah, you're getting us your hard-earned money, so much appreciated that. It does really help, pay for, maybe like a travel, a hotel for a couple nights, the streaming stuff, the podcast software, all that sort of stuff. Really appreciate it, and we try to make sure that you're feeling taken care of there. And then obviously the fam, the wives.
I mean,
so what I don't think
it's not possible. It's just not possible without them, without their encouragement and support. And I think they, one thing my wife always says is that she just appreciates that you and I do it together. That at least we have each other. We're going to make sure that, we're taking care of each other. We're not just out here doing some crazy solo adventure.
It's true.
So I think, but yeah, it's certainly not possible without them. And as our kids get older, maybe it'll be easier to do more swimrun. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, is it getting harder or easier to do things? I thought
I don't know, man.
But also the kids, they're still in that age to where we are some of the top 5 coolest people in their life as their dads.
To enjoy it while
and
we
it's
can.
like, oh my gosh, I see this is going to go away. Kind of, it's right around the corner. I feel like I'm sensing it with a 9-year-old, but we are, we're pretty cool to them, and that just makes you feel really good as a dad.
Yeah, my daughter introduces me as a YouTuber to her friends,
which is ridiculous. Which is not she's not factually incorrect, but it is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, with that, everyone, hope you have a great Christmas, holiday, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festivus, whatever you celebrate, or nothing. It's all good, and we look forward to seeing you at a swim run soon.
See you in 2025.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave a rating or review, since that's the best way to help other people discover the show and the sport of swim run.
Check out our website, lowtideboyz.com. That's boys with a Z, for swimrun resources, including gear guides, tips, how-to videos, and so much more. Make sure to check out our meme page at The Low Tide Boyz on Instagram. If you have any questions or suggestions for the show, send us a DM or email us at lowtideboyz@gmail.com.
We'd like to thank Riding Easy Records for our show music, and of course our wives for their support and tolerance of our swim run and other activities.
Lots of activities.
Lots of activities.
Finally, you can support our efforts on Patreon. Until next time, get out there and go for a swim.
Then a run.
And then a swim.
Then another run.
Then another swim.
Then run some more.
Just keep going.
Let's go.
And then stop at some point because,
And fuel. Don't forget to fuel.
Gotta fuel
of course, yes.